Gail pointed out, this is the last session of the day, and we are focused on employer engagement in IETs, which is integrated education and training, as well as ACPs, which are adult career pathways. We like to think of this as the perfect match, and we are happy to have you here with us today. Today, I'm here as your host. My name is Heather Turngren. I work with Atlas as the Adult Career Pathways Coordinator. I'm very fortunate to be joined by Karen Jardine, who is from Hub Center for Lifelong Learning over in St. Paul, as well as Ron Fleischman, who is from Mankato Area Adult Education. It's really great to have folks from Minnesota discuss how they are making employer engagement work. For our objectives today, we hope by the end of the webinar that you will be able to articulate why employers are essential partners for ACPs. Again, that would be adult career pathways. We would like to make sure you're able to identify the characteristics of an effective employer partner. So making sure you know which employers might work the best for your adult career pathway. We also want to make sure you can determine effective strategies for approaching those employer partners. So Ron and Karen will share some amazing strategies that have worked well for them. And we want to make sure that you can articulate the benefits to employers of making a partnership with adult basic education programming. So all of these are fantastic strategies that we hope you'll walk away with today for your IETs as well as your ACPs. That's part of our alphabet soup that is ABE, and we'll try to make some of those letters have a little bit more maybe information behind them. I'd like to review the 3 required components for an IET, which would be integrated education and training. So just as its name implies, we need to be integrating some different standards or different skills. If you look on the left side of your screen, you'll see how we would be wanting to integrate or include CCRS skills, which are those adult education and literacy skills. So you're bringing in what we do best, adult education. We focus on literacy, English language learning. You might have a program focused on family literacy, as well as doing some English language and civics preparation. We do that really well, but for this IET or integrated education and training, we also have to include workforce preparation skills, which is in that middle column. That would be things like critical thinking and digital literacy, self-management, the really important employability skills that our adult education learners need to be able to have to be better prepared to enter the workforce. These are represented, as many of you know, through our TIF, our Transitions Integration Framework, as well as the North Star Digital Literacy Skills. It's all related on what we need to be doing in our classrooms to be preparing our learners to move to their next step. So again, we've got those CCRS skills, we've got the ACEs and North Star, but then we also have an extra component added within IET, and that would be the workforce training. And for some of us, that might be new. Those are newer skills that we're focused on, and that would be the industry-specific or sector-specific skills. So say if you're focused on English for healthcare, you would be having your students learn how to use perhaps a blood pressure cuff. Those are those skills that are not really what we do in ABE, and they're not those employability skills, but it's the fine act of combining all of those 3 components is what makes up an IET, or integrated education and training. Now, an IET would be one program delivery model within your much larger adult career pathway. And that pathway might be like all of healthcare, and you have a number of different classes to help students move along. And one of those courses could be IET. Another aspect of IET is that it has to be concurrent, or all of those standards have to be happening at the same time, and it has to be contextualized. For example, you can't just say, well, I'm going to teach students literacy and numeracy so they get their GED, and then we're going to teach them the healthcare. Nope, it's got to be all together concurrently. It's got to be happening at the same time and contextualized. So, and this is all coming from WIOA, our federal guidelines. We have to make sure that the courses in IET are sufficient intensity and quality, so you have enough hours and maybe weeks to make sure students are going to learn those skills. It has to be happening simultaneously, again, not just a separate ABE class and a separate welding class. It's got to be combined. And we're always focused on using occupationally relevant instructional materials. That's how you get that contextualized. So instead of me just talking about that blood pressure cuff, I'm actually going to bring it in and put it in the hands of the students so they are using it. Part of the process of integrating those 3 sets of standards or skills into the classroom is creating a single set of learning objectives, or SSLO. And a lot of this information might be new for you all, so we will be inviting you to join our IET Institute next week if you want to dig in a little deeper about what some of this is. But I'm just preparing you to understand why it's so important to be engaging your employers or working with employers while you're developing adult career pathways and IETs. And you might say, what is the value of this IET model? Why do we have to do it? Well, we know it's written into federal statute through WIOA, but there's some other reasons and good values that you should be incorporating IETs into your adult career pathways. We know that it gives students a sense of direction and it moves them into sustainable wage and employment. When students know that at the end of that IET, they're going to be getting a certificate that's going to get them a job that will have sustainable wage, that is a win-win-win for everyone around. It really helps to fulfill a need in our community. We also know that the benefit for learners of having an IET is that you are in that process of creating a single set of learning objectives. So we are assuring that the students have the most useful teaching that we can provide for them. It's not just going to be extra material to round out a 40-hour course. No, we're going to make sure that they get everything that they need to obtain that certificate. It also helps us to focus the lesson on vocabulary that the students need to be able to use in the workforce, and it matches those language skills with their workplace or workforce skills. All studies have shown that IETs have helped with students' persistence and especially retention and level gains, because students are highly motivated to use IETs as a way to get into the sustainable wage jobs. And programs using federal ABE funds for student training must be in an IET format. So that might be the big thumb coming down on why you have to do it. But all the research shows that it really helps with students' persistence, retention, and level gains. The benefits to the students is it's developing their confidence, it's building their confidence, they're becoming really familiar with the vocabulary and the terminology within that career sector. They're using the language in real life situations, and what better way to use language than in an authentic context? And that way it helps to promote their language acquisition and that retention of the language. Being in that workplace environment with that language helps the learners know what that job will entail, so that we just don't have them spending all this time going into getting prepared for a job, and then they get to the job and they're like, I don't think I can do this. It's really going to help them focus on that. It also gives students a specific focus in a determined amount of time. Time is of the essence for our learners, and an IET really helps to bring that time frame down for them to get into that sustainable job. And as we'll be learning today, it connects students with the employment goals into getting family sustainable wage and careers. But there are benefits for employers and for our community as well. Job seekers are more prepared for the workforce. So our learners, when they moved into interviewing for a job, they've already had much experience and have earned a potential credential for that job. So they're more prepared for entering that workplace. Employers, if you're working with them, they're able to showcase to our students why they are the best place for them to work, especially right now with historic employment rates and very low unemployment rates. Those employers are going to want to really stand out and let our learners know why they should be working in that company. Employers also trust our recommendations. We provide services that might assist employers with diversity, if that is their goal, with equity and inclusion efforts within their employees, and it could help to fulfill employment gaps. So there's a win for the learners, win for your programming, as well as a win for the employers. Let me move forward here. So I think I've done enough speaking, but again, I'll come back and we'll answer questions after we hear from Karen and Ron, but they are bringing forth these fantastic examples from the field. They have the information and they have made it happen. So thank you, Karen.
Thank you. I'm Karen Jardine. I work for St. Paul Public Schools Adult Basic Education Program. I am an assistant supervisor over our workforce education programming. So at the Hub Center, we have a multiple array of different job training classes that we provide. And one of them that I'm going to talk a little bit more about with the IET is our Parapro class. And so Heather, why don't you go ahead and move on to the next slide. We partner with St. Paul Public Schools with a number of our job training classes, and St. Paul Schools has helped us with the partnership with our Parapro, as I mentioned, our custodial, we have building maintenance class, and then we also have a Serve Safe for nutrition services. So those are a couple options that we have where we partner with St. Paul Public Schools. Why it's essential to have an employer partner. We are building real-time skills, and this is something that Heather mentioned earlier in the slides before. It's just really important that we are hitting the mark on what the employer needs. And so having that communication, making sure that with Parapro, for instance, oftentimes we hear from human resources that people are coming into these jobs unprepared. They don't know what they're in for when they come into a classroom, whether it's middle school, high school, with special ed, they are unprepared. And so through our IET class, our Parapro class, we're doing a job shadowing opportunity for students to get into the classrooms and see what it's like. And that was something that we heard from human resources. We said, what do we need to do to better prepare our students for this work? And so that came out of that conversation. So some of those essential partnerships are just being able to bring that real-time skill building to them. The other great opportunity is that they are able to give us jobs. These students, HR is outside the door when our students pass the Parapro assessment, and they are starting that interview and application process with them. So it's a great option for the students to get employed right away. The next part, and again, Heather mentioned this in her slides earlier, and it's just a great point to essential partners that we're in the community and we're helping students and employers right here in our community, and it's just strengthening the relationships between our neighbors and our businesses, and it's a great opportunity that way. Let me see. So the methods of locating potential employer partners, just keeping your eyes and ears open. Oftentimes you will be watching the news, you will be reading the paper, you will be listening to somebody at the supermarket and you hear that there's a need. And it's just really important to kind of have that cap on when you're out and about to see what's happening. Your Chamber of Commerce, Career Force, college partners, you know, it's again, just kind of keeping your eyes and ears open for that. The next thing is just thinking creatively. And I mentioned our Serve Safe and our building maintenance. Those are some opportunities that, in conversation with our human resources, in conversation with our facilities department, we find that there's a need in other areas. And how can we continue that partnership in these other areas and provide quality employees, candidates to them? And so it's thinking creatively and understanding maybe where the need is. All right, Heather. Some strategies that have worked when approaching employer partners. So a big thing is explaining what adult basic education is. A lot of companies, a lot of people outside of our little world here don't know what we do. And that's okay. We just need to give them that conversation and open their eyes to the world of ABE. And it's a great conversation to have. The other part of approaching employers is being flexible. And that kind of goes into that next bullet point of listening to what their needs are and then expanding on that, because oftentimes you'll have a conversation with employer and they don't quite know what they need until you start talking and having this conversation with them. We do some on-site English classes with employers around our community, and that's oftentimes where I hear that they don't exactly know what they need to work with it. So it's having that conversation of what type of training are the employees doing right now? What type of training is already offered? And then how can we expand on that training and support those students, those employees, where they're at, and give them that opportunity to either be promoted or move into a new position because we're offering this additional training and support. So it's, again, keeping your eyes and ears open, but also listening to what's not being said when you're talking to employers. Okay, thank you, Heather. Some benefits to employers by partnering with ABE. I mean, the benefits are endless, as you all know. Working with ABE, it's a quality program at a low cost. They get quality candidates, and they are, if they're in an IET program that's geared towards those jobs, they're getting skills that fit the job. And then it's an opportunity for additional support. ABE is flexible. We use that word a lot, and we are there to be able to provide that follow-up and that additional support that the students, that the employees might need. And again, it's another opportunity for us to continue that partnership with employers, because maybe there's an unmet need that we haven't seen, and we're able to come in and provide that in a different way. So it's, again, just looking for those opportunities. All right, pitfalls. Unmet expectations. One thing that I have seen with my partnerships is oftentimes employers are wanting to move pretty quickly, and for good reason. They have a bottom line to look at. But things don't happen as quickly as they would like to see them happen. And as many of you may know, working with adult students, things don't happen as quickly as you'd like to see them happen either. So it's just having those expectations and being very clear with your employer about how things will play out and what their expectations should be on that final outcome. And then another pitfall is turnover, which we all know about. And within a company, there's turnover. Within ABE, there's turnover. And it's really important that we document our steps, we document who we've had conversations with, we document the process, and we are diversifying those contacts within the company. So if somebody leaves, you know that there's somebody else that you can connect with and have that information communicated to. So again, it's just making sure that you are kind of planning on, that turnover and making sure that you have that relationship within the company. And if those people leave, then you still have everything documented to kind of move forward. So I think that might be it, Heather. And then I think it's on to Ron.
Yeah, Karen, that was it for your slide presentation. And I apologize. There was an issue on my end. If you heard another sound, I think a video, and that's why I had to escape from there. So I apologize for that. But we were hoping to hold questions for the end. So if you have really great questions for Karen, and I'm sure you do, because she has a lot of experience in working with employers for both adult career pathways and IETs, write them down, maybe type them in the chat, and don't send them until we hear from our friend Ron. And here you go, Ron. We'll come back when you are finished.
Thank you. Hey, that's me. Boy, that was a long time ago. My name's Ron Fleischman. I'm the lead instructor for the SEC Connects program. I'm the Adult Career Pathways Program Supervisor for Mankato Area Adult Basic Ed. Okay, let me explain a little bit about our Adult Basic Ed. So our Adult Career Pathways programs, we have two sort of veins that go through Mankato Area Adult Basic Ed, one being healthcare and one being manufacturing. So I'm the lead instructor for the manufacturing and oversee both areas. So if you're quick on the uptake, you'll notice that Karen and I are covering the exact same questions, but we come from such different vantage points that we thought it was worthwhile. So first of all, why are employers essential to ACPs? The very first thing you have to always remember is adult career pathways are jobs programs, which sometimes in ABE we sort of get lost in the education piece, but these are all designed to address a specific skills gap that provides a livable wage, which is for us why we don't have a culinary program, for example. It certainly is a skill gap area and there's lots of jobs, but they don't really generally have a livable wage. So we focus on that. Also, it makes sense if we're going to prepare our students for successful entry into those jobs that we talk to our business partners. It's just an obvious, those are the folks you want to talk to. What are the characteristics of an effective employer partner? First of all, they have to have a need for a skilled worker, and ideally they should need loads of them. And this is probably the perfect time if you're ever looking at developing or improving or changing or advancing your IET programs. This is the perfect time to look at that because there's a lot of jobs available. Two, they're having trouble finding help, and you do not have to look far. And these employers are clamoring, saying, we need more bodies that actually show up and come through the doors. And then they value the workers that they have. To me, that's an important characteristic of an effective employer partner is I don't want an employer partner that treats their employees like Kleenex. You know, I've got a 3-year-old in the house currently, and you go to the Kleenex box and you pull one out and you just kind of dab and you throw that off and no, get another one, let's blow. We don't want employers that treat their employees that way. We know that there's a significant investment in a new employee, but there are those employers out there that think, well, they're going to be gone in 2 weeks. We'll just try and pump them through. We want employers that really show that they value their employees. Ways to find potential partners. One, this is a jobs program. It would be foolish to leave your career force representative out of it. Our career force representative is a pretty vital part of our IET programs. In our
Is anyone else having an issue? Ron, I'm not sure we can hear you.
Is all that education training. Oh, I'm still with you. Okay. All that education training. So allow them to do that job search, resume kinds of training in your IET. My expertise is more in the education and the manufacturing stuff. So that's more what I do. Secondly, that send me a sign. Those of you who like movies like I do would recognize that from Bruce Almighty, where he's sort of having a breakdown and he just says, God, send me a sign. And this truck pulls in front of him, loads of signs in it. And all he is irritated by them. He doesn't see them. And for us, one of the important pieces is when you're looking for, you still, okay, audio is still good. Okay. When you're looking for employers that are looking, just keep your eyes open. There's lots of signs around for where they need help and specifically what they need help for. And then finally, sort of a hidden one is go to your local community college or colleges and try and get a list of who's on the advisory boards, because they've already understood the connection of education and employment. So they're already invested in that process and you can help extend that. So what strategies have worked for you? First of all, know how to speak their language, not our language. So when we talk ABE, IET, ACP, EIEIO, they're lost already. Understand that they listen to one radio station and it's WIIFM. What's in it for me? So you really have to focus in on what's in it for these employers. So be making sure that you're talking employment and numbers and skilled people coming to their job place. Secondly, know the basics for any job, and I did my homework ahead, so I wrote them down so I wouldn't forget them. Employees that have good attendance, that they have timeliness, that their tasks get done, they understand deadlines. I'm old enough to say cut the phone cord, but students, potential employees that actually put their phone away instead of being on it 24/7. Understand that they're looking for students that would be team workers, a good team member. They're looking for employees that have the ability to learn. And understand they're not looking for employees that have all 25 years of experience in their field. From us, they're looking for entry-level people that have the ability to be trained, which is why we're such a great connection for them, is our folks have already proven that they can be trained. And then people that understand simply some of the basics. The best way to really engage an employer is to ask them loads of questions. What are you looking for in a great candidate? What do you wish every worker would know or could know or can do? How can your current employees be better? That's sort of a lost piece. A lot of us think, well, they've already got jobs, they're happy with them. Some of our employers would say, is there a possibility to extend their training to make them better and make them able to move higher in our organization? And what do you want to teach them? We ask that of our employer partners. What do you want to teach them? And then what do we need to teach them? So already that expectation of we're partners, we're not your partner, we're partners. We work together in this. Benefits to employers. First of all, we know what they're looking for because we've asked them all those questions. We know what they want and we can deliver on that. So for example, someone who's going through my SEC Connects program, they go through my bridge program, I've already established that they're going to attend because I have strict attendance policies, that they're going to meet deadlines because I have pretty strict deadline policies, that they're going to be able to work as teams because I have some individual learning tasks and some group learning tasks. We've also worked out that they're going to be putting their phones away and they're going to be paying attention, and they're going to be actually having that ability to go from what they maybe don't know so well or don't know at all into what they're going to learn. They may not know it yet, but they can. The next one is provide public praise and recognition. Every single time that we take a group from our college to tour one of our partner sites, I make sure in the presence of our partner to say what an important partner they've been to us, how they've really helped our program become stronger, how we couldn't provide our program without their involvement. So really let them know how valuable they are in public, in front of your students. This is my 8th year doing this. So I've had 16 classes go through these tours, and each one I make sure to mention what a great partner these are. The other one is donut diplomacy. When we do have a partner who's really, really getting it and really being part of us, then every once in a while I drop by unannounced with enough donuts for their shift, just to say thank you. It doesn't come out of a fund. It's just really smart operation policy, is to let them know not only do we benefit from providing this training, but we really value you. Then when you do find good employers, they get the first shot at the candidates. We do mock interviews. I'm going to speak specifically for welding because I'm most involved in that. When we do welder training, it's a 1-semester program at the college, and we tour this semester. I think we ended up with 11 different groups that we toured. And when we tour, a lot of those folks are looking at ways to have more opportunity to visit with our employees. So we'll invite their lead welder to come and give a short presentation on a certain type of weld that they do often. And then they can spend 5 minutes in each booth with each of our students. And I remind our students, this is not them doing this because they're generous. It's that we FM again, they're interviewing you. When they're in there showing you how to do this weld, they're seeing if you can pay attention, if you can be taught something new, and if you can try it and if you can learn from it. So really be respectful of that. And then again, the shop tours, when we walk through shop tours, generally there's myself and the lead instructor for welding that go on these tours. And one of us is in with the tour, making sure our students are all engaged, and generally that's not a big issue. But the other one is lagging back, visiting with the HR person, and they're asking things like, all right, who's the gal with the hat? What kind of a welder are they? What's their attendance like? Those kinds of things. So while we're doing the tours, they have an opportunity to make that connection to really reinforce that we've got strong candidates. And then again, they get the candidates with strong basic skills. That's their biggest reason for being engaged, is when they hire one of our students, they know what they're getting. Some pitfalls. Okay. The first thing is, remember that you're training for a career field and not for a single partner. Like I said, I think we did 11 tours this semester thus far, and that's all we're doing this semester, because students have work to do as well. But oftentimes our partners are like, you know what, we wanted to teach them to MIG weld, and their MIG welds have to be 2 feet long without stopping. Well, okay, there might be 1 or 2 partners that need that, but another partner might be saying, we don't need them to MIG weld at all. We need to teach them how to TIG weld, and we need to teach them to TIG weld on stainless steel instead of you know, other types of, and others would say, no, we don't need any of that. We need aluminum welders. So understand that you're training for that career field, not for one specific partner. Secondly, remind the partners and the students that their education comes first. And we're seeing this firsthand in the shop right now. If you walk into any of our welding places and say, you know, I'm interested in being a welder, they'll nab you up, they'll give you a job, they'll provide training right there on the spot. And I tell that to our students. If you want to go out there, they'll hire you quick. But there's a reason that we have a waiting list in our welding shop. And that's because the students that go through here end up with a credential. Because you can go to a business partner, get a job right away, and 3 weeks into it, they might decide, you know, business is getting slow, we're going to cut you. Or we things for one reason or another didn't work out. And what are you left with? You're left without a job, and most likely with a business partner that's not going to give you a recommendation because they cut you. So make sure that as a student that you're getting that credential. Then we talk to our partners and say, all we ask is 4.5 months from these students. And they're looking for part-time work while they're going to school. That's what you provide for them. If we find that you're trying to nab them full-time, then maybe our partnership isn't as mutually beneficial as it needs to be. We have to have some tough conversations with our business partners, but if they want to continue partnering with us, they will listen to those. Finally, recognize that your partners are all competing with each other for that same group of students. So sometimes, like I said, we have to have difficult conversations with our business partners, and we've pulled them aside and said, your starting wage is not keeping up with your other partners in the area. Your other businesses are providing a much better initial wage, and I don't know if you're going to be able to nab any of our students. You might want to consider changing that. Or we'll visit with them and say, you know what? We were at another business and they're providing tuition reimbursement after 6 months of employment or something like that. So we will share that with our business partners, because the stronger they are, the better they do, the better jobs come to our students. So those are all ideas for pitfalls. The last thing I guess I have to share is, don't be afraid of new ideas. Any of you that have worked with me or seen me around for any length of time know that I'm not afraid to do something stupid and get it wrong. And sometimes I actually end up doing something right. So be willing to be creative with your business partners. I'm cooking up a plan now, haven't started it yet, but I'm starting the processes. I'm talking with our college instructors and saying, what if we partnered with each of our partners and said, we want to do one final project for our students that would specifically come from you as a business partner. You would provide the steel for it. You would maybe even do some of the training on how to do that specific weld you're looking for, that specific project. And our students would know that that is the GNS final, or that is the Jones Metal final. And so it's always be willing to try some new ideas, because sometimes they can really help strengthen partnerships.
Ron, thanks for sharing all your great ideas. And I think the students in your classroom are probably just as grateful as we all are with the great information that you're able to share. Now, I'm wondering if anyone has really great questions that they'd like to ask of Rob or Karen about employer engagement. I learned a new one from you, Ron, and that would be the WIIFM. I like that because that is true with employers. They want to know what's in it for me because that's what they do. They are just looking at their bottom line.
And the truth is, if you don't meet that, you're not of any value to them.
Yeah, really great. Yeah, I like Patsy's with me with all the other acronyms you have. Donut diplomacy and shoveling out the barn. Be willing to do what maybe they don't like to do.
Yeah, actually, that probably is an engagement tactic that I didn't put in, but have used previously. That shoveling out the barn, that's the job that nobody wants to do. Start with that job. Let your employers know, I'll do this. I'll shovel out the barn for you. I'll do that lousy job. And eventually they'll realize, oh, hey, they have other skills. Let's not waste them on shoveling out the barn. Let's have them do this and this.
Really great strategies. Now, I think we can see in the chat, Julie says, I think we all agree IET classes are great. However, we've had trouble in the past and currently filling IET classes. Challenges have been reading, cut scores and or GED diploma requirements. What are some other schools experiencing? My school is in Robbinsdale School District, metro suburbs. I think, Julie, you are bringing up what a lot of people have been experiencing with those scores. And I think I go back to what Karen, if she wants to join us, what she was saying, it takes time. Employers have to know you're not going to get a GED in 3 months, right?
Right.
Maybe,
yeah.
But probably not. It takes time.
Yeah, it definitely takes time. And we have, we kind of have pre classes to a lot of our job training classes. So we really gear up students in order to get them ready for that next level. And so I think you're right. It's really difficult to fill classes. And now that more classes are online, is it becoming easier or harder? I think it's still a mix of how people are filling classes and making that available to students as well as at their level that will work.
Yeah, and some of these ideas on how to fill classes, I think might be addressed if you all come to next week's IET Institute. All right, so I'm just gonna quickly point out, I'm keenly aware of the time. I don't wanna keep you too much later, but you might wanna know where are some available resources for IETs. We have them located, you guess of all places, Atlas, your one-stop shop for just about everything ABE. If you go there, you can click in resources, click on adult career pathways, and you can be finding some of that information. You might also want to take a look at the integrated education and training area within the resources for adult career pathways. And Gail was so kind to share the link in the chat. But inside that IET training resources, you can find a link to something that was recently published by OCTE, which is the Integrated Education and Training Design Toolkit. A lot of the strategies that Karen and Ron shared with us are inside this toolkit. And there are many other strategies as well that can help you. Some of you may belong to the Mighty Networks. We have a special Mighty Networks room or area for adult career pathways where I am the host and I try to facilitate and share as much information as possible. But I'm also looking to you all to share what you're doing in your programming. Liddy just shared a link on an article on how to get started in Mighty Networks, and you can look for other areas or groups that you'd like to join. Some of you have been to our other IET professional development, and we have a lot of these recorded on the MN ABE Professional Development YouTube channel. So you can have a drive-in theater in your house and just watch all sorts of gems that we have on adult career pathway programming. as well as IETs. We have an IET 101 from last fall at the fall conference, as well as a presentation on that SSLO, which is a component of IETs. And I always want to invite you for other professional development activities happening around adult career pathways and around IETs. We have an IET Institute, the first of its kind, happening next week. So this is a virtual event, and you can register for this at Atlas. It will be from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock. And I think you can dig in deeper with some of your questions on IETs. As well as Summer Institute, it's another virtual event that's happening on August 17th and 18th. And all of those can be found at Atlas. And with that, I think I have kept you 1 minute over, or 1.5 minutes over, but I want to thank you. But I'm giving a big thank you to Gail and Liddy for helping. And to Karen, I apologize for that little glitch I had in the PowerPoint. And to Ron, thank you so much for all that you bring to our adult career pathway programming. Ron and Karen are great in what they do.
And a big thank you to